So, Sonic Origins is almost a year old now, and I didn't make a review on it like I intended to. And with the now announced Sonic Origins Plus, the pressure has been put on me to actually finish this video, so here we go. Sonic Origins almost a year too late. And hopefully I'll be able to make a video about Sonic Origins Plus when it releases in like, I don't know, a couple months from now, whenever this video actually does come out. If this video never comes out, I'm gonna cry. But let's get into it. Let's start the review. Yeah. Oh, you guys probably know the story by now. Before the release of Sonic Origins, Taxman, aka Christian Whitehead, made a proof of concept port of Sonic CD to mobile devices. Sega ended up actually picking up the port and not just leaving it to mobile devices, releasing it on consoles and Steam in 2011. The port of Sonic CD did so well that later in 2012, Christian Whitehead and Simon Townley ended up making a port of Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for mobile devices only. This is odd because it raises a few questions. 1. Why were these only limited to mobile? And 2. Where was Sonic 3 and Knuckles? Now the first question was never really answered, and with Sonic 3 and Knuckles, it seems that it had something to do with the Michael Jackson situation. For those who don't know, Michael Jackson had some involvement with the Sonic 3 soundtrack, but was never actually credited in the game. Therefore, there are multiple theories on why he was never credited, but the big two are that he wasn't proud of the sound quality coming out of the Genesis, and Sega wanted to split ties with him anyway due to the allegations coming out around that time. Whatever the reason may be, this actually led to the Jackson estate throwing legal threats at Sega, scaring them out of actually re-releasing their own game. Around 2019 though, a Sonic 3 prototype had been found with different music from some zones that weren't actually used, but instead were used for the Sega PC Sonic and Knuckles collection, which were not exactly liked by most, but coming out of the Genesis sound chip, the tracks actually weren't that bad, and most thought it could be used for a re-release of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Fast forward to March 27, 2021, and during Sonic Central, Sega announces a new Sonic collection called Sonic Origins, with Sonic 1, 2, CD, 3, and Knuckles. Eventually, in 2022, it's shown to be the Christian Whitehead ports updated for modern hardware and released on consoles and PC, along with a new retro engine port of Sonic 3 and Knuckles done by Headcanon, Simon Townley's team. The collection was eventually released digitally on Sonic's birthday, June 23rd. Now, I won't be going over the games themselves, but I mainly want to go over the remakes themselves, and the modes and the games and all that extra stuff, so let me actually talk about the game. Starting with Anniversary Mode, this is a 16:9 version of the games, along with removing lives and adding the drop dash from Sonic Mania. This mode is the ideal and main way to play these games, and it's an alright version of them. Having these games in widescreen 60 FPS and a drop dash is a legitimate enhancement, but of course it's Sega and they're Sega. For anyone who doesn't know, there's things like the blurriness from the original mobile ports, which is still here, which on a phone, fine enough, who cares, but it's pretty noticeable on things like a PC and consoles with bigger screens. Another issue is the drop dash from Sonic 1 and 2. In the original Genesis releases of Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles, the games had this thing called roll locking, where the games would lock your ability to move after rolling into a jump. This was carried over into the Christian Whitehead ports, which was also carried over into the Origins ports, and roll locking doesn't work with the drop dash, meaning you can't change your direction mid-air, and it also makes the move feel sluggish and slow. Sonic CD never had any roll locking, so it doesn't bother that, and Sonic 3 Knuckles is a brand new remaster by Headcanon, and Simon Townley's team thankfully had enough foresight to remove the roll locking. Sonic Origins also removes coins in Anniversary Mode, and they can be used for two main purposes: buying items from the museum and retrying special stages. And I prefer the coins to lives, to be honest with you. I never have cared for lives in the modern day. No one's gonna be that bad at these games, especially with things like save files. They're kind of pointless in the modern day, and coins work. You can retry special stages, especially for those Sonic 2 ones. That is a huge upside. And using them for things like items in the museum is also a neat idea. One small thing I will touch on though is the Sonic 3 and Knuckles remaster. It's odd. It's not as great as it should be. Now, it's not bad, it's definitely playable, it's fine, but it's weird in the physics and they've kind of been jacked up, mainly in the speed department. Sonic just feels a lot faster than he should, and it's really screwy. It isn't unplayable, like I said, but it can mess up some level design issues. For example, a special stage entrance in Mushroom Hill. Again, it's not the end of the world, but it's still weird. Stealth's comments on the remaster says a lot, and it's definitely not where it should be, which is saddening to hear, but again, it's playable, and it's still not the end of the world. Anniversary mode is solid enough. It's not perfect and could definitely be tweaked in some ways, but if you want a relatively high quality way to play the classic games, then it's not a bad option. Then there's classic mode, which is just bad. What classic mode is supposed to be is an original purist way to play these games with a 4:3 aspect ratio, removing the drop dash and adding lives. But this isn't exactly a purist method of playing the games, due to the fact that these are not the original games. No. These are just the Christian Whitehead ports removed with the Origin enhancements and stuff like that, so it's pretty much pointless. Black borders and removing the drop dash and adding back lives just make the experience worse in my opinion. And with these not being the original ROMs, it makes this feel kind of pointless, especially since it's kind of a thing with the community not being able to get the ROMs of these games legally, which kind of sucks. So, yeah, no, fucking no one likes classic mode. That's it. It's lame. Next up, there's a boss rush mode, which is kind of self-explanatory. The game does do something neat though by adding back lives and not giving you rings on certain boss fights, making you have to save up rings throughout the boss rush, which honestly is pretty neat. I didn't have the worst time with it, it wasn't impossible, but it did throw some curveballs at me a few times and I did get a couple of game overs for the first time in forever. So yeah, boss rush is neat. And lastly, there is mirror mode, which takes the anniversary modes of these games and mirrors them. It's nothing really crazy. Again, it's nothing crazy. I do enjoy it to an extent. Hell, I even got lost in Sonic CD, so take that for what you will. But if you just want a neat little distraction or maybe something to trip you up, I guess mirror mode is there, so neat. Also, more is in Sonic Origins as a collection itself. Story mode and mission mode. Story mode is essentially a marathon mode through all 4 games with cutscenes connecting each game. And mission mode takes levels from the games and remixes them to make challenges out of them, and they're pretty fun. S-ranking them could be pretty challenging at times, and I had a lot of fun playing them. There's also the museum, which isn't bad, but it might be a little underwhelming for some. Hey, also a pro tip, if you are odded out by the fact that there's no museum music, yes, you have to create a playlist and add the songs from the sound section of the museum yourself. There is no standalone museum music here. You just kind of make your own playlist and jam out through that, which is fine, but some own museum music by, I don't know, T. Lopes, Otani, Jun Sonoy would have been nice to have in the collection, but other than that, it's fine. It's not a bad museum, like I said, but it's kind of just odd. Like, for example, no history of Sonic video, no developer diaries, and it's mostly stuff we've already seen. And it's all classic Sonic imagery. It's a decent collection of stuff, but if you're like me, it's nothing you haven't seen before, except for maybe a few exceptions here and there. Moving on to presentation though, I can say this collection has its highs and lows. Each game being represented by their islands that they take place on is actually pretty neat. Even CD and 3 and Knuckles swapping depending on where you are in the story. And if you bought the character animations, they do add a lot of charm to these too. The sound quality of the actual games though is pretty questionable. For some reason they sound muffled, and in the case of Sonic 3's remixes, they sound terrible now. They use the incorrect pitch and they lose all their punch. It sounds kind of depressing. Sound effects can also be way too loud or way too quiet. The transition from Sonic CD's gameplay to the cutscenes is insanely jarring. the audio quality here is just horrendous. I don't even want to listen to this with headphones on out of fear I'll be scared by Cosmic Eternity. I don't know what happened here, but it's kind of unreal to me. Another problem is the lack of save files, so you can't go back to replay levels without having to cheat or go to the leaderboard area, and you can't replay levels with Supersonic aside from Sonic 3 and Knuckles because that game actually does have save files. Moving on from that though, one part of the presentation that's actually great is the animations done by Tyson Hesse and Powerhouse Studios. These are amazingly done and not only make the stories of these games more clear in a day and age where video games don't really include manuals anymore, but they're just amazing eye candy. They are so well done. The animation quality here is amazing and they're some of the best animation from the franchise. As a total package though, Sonic Origins is a fine collection, but it could use a lot of improvements, and for $40 US with DLC costing you $45, I can see where the backlash would come from. Personally, I enjoy the collection, but there's so many oddities and issues that I probably couldn't recommend this full price. I'd say get it for a discounted price or just get Sonic Origins Plus coming out in a few months at the cost of $40, giving you all the DLC and the plus content. That's a bit more of a deal. And I hope it does fix some of the genuine issues with Origins to make it more worth that $40. But anyway, that's it. So I hope you enjoyed the review. I'll see you when Origins Plus comes out maybe. Adios.